Today we are doing the favorite fantasy tropes and buzzwords recommendation sort of video. This was created by Shelly over at Shell Space, and Sunshine just walked into the bottom of the tripod, so that's why it jiggled. I'm Morgan. If this is your first time here, this is going over some of our favorite tropes that we see in fantasy books and which books we believe embody that trope, or it's best represented and recommend it to everybody else. And I would love if you would put your recommendations of what some of these tropes are in yours. I have added a few to the list that she first created of the tropes. The buzzwords, maybe I'm not as good with identifying those because I just worked within what we had. And I will be passing the torch along to another booktuber at the end of the video. The first trope is going to be more of a genre. It is the sci fantasy blending genre. Truly, this is one that has been so fun to get into, mostly truly because of one series. I'm sure I have read more, but this is the one that I know for sure, and I love it, and I will continue to talk about it. My tablet is sitting on all the stacks of books right now, and that's a horrible idea functionally for showing these. So that would be the Sun Eater series, though, by Christopher Rocchio, starting with Empire Silence, because this is a grand space story as we travel to 20,000 years at least into the future for several different planets. In the first book, though, you are following Hadrian Marlowe as he is just leaving his planet and getting to know the actual universe. It is a story, though, that is being recited back to us by a future Hadrian of his exploits from being a young man to becoming the infamous Sun Eater and saving or dooming humanity as however you want to see him. It is so cool, though, because you do have the science, you have the epic world building scale, though, of a fantasy, and some other elements that I can't get into because that would be spoilers, especially because they don't happen in the first book. This next one I haven't actually read myself, but I don't know, something in my brain tells me that this is a sci fantasy. That is going to be The Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin. I have the first book. I plan to read the first book, and the cover looks very fantasy. The descriptions gives sci-fi and fantasy vibes. I don't know. It's classified as a science fiction by Orbit, but there was something that I read either from the first book or the description of the second that tells my brain keeps saying that's sci-fantasy. So someone please let me know in the comments if I am completely delusional on that regard. In it, though, humanity has moved far past kind of using weapons of mass destruction, compacted that we will never do that again. Instead, people represent each other in single combat, and they are known as Griever Knights, and we are following one as he is kind of training up his replacement. I do believe, right? Yes. Main character is once famed knight until he suffered a loss that wounded his homeland, and now he's on the hunt to discover the next champion. One day. Our next trope is involving ancient civilizations. She specified where it is like a more, not even modern, but a new civilization has risen and is on top of the old one. I like it also when it is kind of lost to history, what happened in that civilization. Case in point would be The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I don't need to sell this one up probably. But as the wheel keeps turning and the ages and everything keeps going, progress, repeating stuff, things are lost. Things are lost from the Age of Legends, all the wonders, the magics that they accomplished. It was the peak of civilization, and after the cataclysm, it was all lost and the world was broken. And then you were following ages later, generations and ages later, as a new group of heroes has entered to save the world, and they are the last hope at this current point in time. My other recommendation is kind of maybe weird because I have not read the whole series. I get the urge to, but then I remind myself how much I didn't like the first two books. But the scope of it, if you want ancient civilizations and fantasy, I kind of think you would maybe like the world of the Shannara. That's not how you say it. Terry Brooks, a very expansive collection set in Shannara. This is like not even dystopian really, but a post-apocalyptic Earth that has now become a fantasy realm. And that sounds so cool, and some of the premises of some of the books do sound so cool, but those first ones, so hard to get through. I don't even remember if I finished book 2 at this point. I think my gripe with book 2 though is it felt like I was reading the same story as book 1, just again with new characters. Except for what's the druid's name. Yeah, and it was dry. Maybe the audiobook will do better. I don't know. People who love Shannara, let me know. Should I give it another try and continue with that one for my world building magic ancient civilization itch? Because I know it's built on that. I know that is the more, not the premise of it. The premise is magic and the current society and stuff. But I know that it's built on that. In fantasy, this is actually kind of really difficult because so many are, yes, unique, but also they might have this thread of the same thing. Magic, elves, dwarves, mythical creatures. But we do know that there is a master world builder, but picking one of them specifically to talk about also seems difficult. So I'm gonna go one of the other side ones, and that's Treasures of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I went with this one because of the spores. Because it's a very interesting, almost scientific-y magic system. Yeah, use spores and water and it's deadly as mess. But yet, and it's just a very sweet story too. It's a very sweet story of Tress sailing across to save the guy she likes and coming to find out what she likes and who she wants to be in the world. And from a naive person to making friends. It's just such a sweet story. And the spores, the world itself, the fact that the oceans are made of spores. One that is like an urban fantasy and also has a lot of elements maybe that you see in things, but also with the twist that I've never seen, never thought of that. Okay. Because the magic is not really magic except that something happened and now your nightmares become reality. And that's City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaefer. I still have not read the second one in the duology, but this one, you're following a character who is not brave. She is not what you expect of the main character at all. She's kind of selfish. And yet, this was so fun though. And the fact that your nightmares come alive and discovering things about that. So cool. So cool. Face your fear or become your nightmare. We move to the next one that's more of a settings type of place. She picked desert and nautical. And I haven't really read that much of like either of those. So my desert setting would be The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. The first one and kind of the second one, you're taking place in the part of the world that is desert, that is known as the Sand Sea. And in the first one, you are specifically traveling through that desert a lot as they are having to go on a quest to find a magic relic because our main character, one of them, is a merchant who deals in djinn artifacts where magic is illegal. So all of her business is very black market. She gets blackmailed by the Sultan and one of his sons has to accompany her on this quest to find the magical, powerful lamp. For the nautical, I think I've only read one that I could think of. And that's going to be The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. And that was also so much fun. And this also will come up in the buzzword thing later. But you are following this pirate captain as she's sailing on her pirate ship to find a crewmate's lost daughter, taken daughter. Lost. Was she lost? I think the way that the grandmother had worded it to Amina was that she was taken. Yeah, and that's why she requested that she come help her because the dad was gone. Like he died while they were out at sea or something. Okay, we're not going to talk about that anymore. But The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi with the pirate life, it was very fun, very interesting tale. And she definitely loves the sea and loves being out at sea. I went really maybe fast on those last two. But for the next one, it's one that I've added, and these are settings within a steampunk or a dystopian. And yes, dystopian is maybe more of the sci-fi blend, but like in this first example, there can be fantasy leanings as well. And that would be The Starless Crown by James Rollins. This is going to be a 4-book series that I really need to catch up on. It has been a minute since I read the first one. And while there was some, maybe I nitpicked on it a little bit. I'll have to go back and read it again to find out. In this one though, you are following a kind of post-apocalyptic society where their planet no longer spins. You have a day side and a night side. So always burning in the sun, and a frozen Iceland. Waste ice. And so you only have two kind of regions of the planet that are hospitable anymore. And that's where the people are, and they have two very different civilizations. We are following characters though on this end, and one is a young girl who I believe she's blind. Yes, our main character, she's a young girl, she's blind, and she's at school, and she does get made fun of for this a lot, but she is very, very smart. Very, very smart. And our other character is a second prince, so he's kind of like the spare. And I no longer remember exactly how they end up working together on the run entirely. She finds out something, or she figures out something she's not supposed to, I believe. And then she has to run for her life. Her classmates are already horrible and try to, beat her a lot. And they end up also coming across a thief who makes a wondrous discovery of a golden item and falls in love with it. I think I'm remembering some of the issues. But reading the descriptions of the next several books, I really want to get back into the series, and that's a flaw of mine. Okay, for the more steampunk fantasy element, I have Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford. This is the Age of Uprising trilogy. In it, you are following a cast of characters. Most of them are from the Harkspur family, the Harkspur Guild family, because in this empire you have guilds that run major aspects of the empire. They have machines like land ships. They have mechanical, not to Gundam levels, but picture Gundams in your head, because to power all of these wondrous devices, they use stones. Different colored stones do different colored things, and only certain people can power these mechanical devices. We're going to ignore that timer because I barely talked about this book. The oldest, who was sent off to a military outpost as his commission. The middle, only daughter, who is sent to learn more of the family business. And the youngest, who is an artificer, as they have to travel through the current rising tensions within their empire. And there is a secondary country, actually possibly another one, that things are done way, way different with their magic. And the religion that is becoming way more prominent is kind of the old religion. Or are they killing the old religion with pushing this one? Something to do with wyverns, though. So that's really cool. And questions. And I also need to reread this before the third one comes out, so I can remember. But this series is really cool. And I'm still kind of sad about what happened to one of the companions at the end of the second book. It was unnecessary, Mr. Ford. It was unnecessary. The final trope that I fully love is the competition setting. This is probably something that started all the way back with the Hunger Games. Who knows way back when. And then we had Divergent that was almost like that. And years later, the Red Queen, years for me at least, the first book, not the rest of the series, just the first book had the competition. Also could be said for Red Rising, but that's a sci-fi. Like, oh my gosh, Red Rising. Also still just the first book. Things that aren't those, though. All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Herman. That is a magical competition to the death, again, that is hosted within this town to control magic, like all-powerful magic, instead of sharing it across the world because this was fading and whatnot. These families decided that they would hold the power there, and so to see who controls the whole power, like, well, most of the power, they have a competition once a generation, but you have to be within a certain age range at least. You're not too young for it. And the children of that age, within that generation, go into a barriered off section and fight to the death. Quite brutal. And alliances form, and injustices and truths are discovered, and a lot. It is a lot. The first book, really good. The second book didn't quite stick the landing. Another one with the competition setting that's more the adult fantasy is going to be Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. This one is setting in a fantastical world, but they have technology. Maybe this also slightly falls into the sci fantasy because it's not like a lot. They just have our level of technology, I guess is a good way to put it. Do they have cars? I don't remember if they have cars. But they have the ability to jump between bodies, thus the competition where you are racing across the city to eliminate anybody who's in it at the chance for a great monetary prize to be awarded by the king. That's why our main character joins, so she can murder him. Because that is her mission in life. And as she has to jump between bodies to either eliminate or kill, because a lot of people just try to kill you, instead of just get you to like drop out of the competition, they just try to kill you. And political scheming, not political scheming, but plots are uncovered and bits of the world are uncovered. And this is just really cool. And I still need to read the sequel. Then we have a big scary male protector, like specifically maybe a grumpy guy who's protecting a little kid somewhere or a young woman. It might not fully fit this series, but The Witcher with Geralt and Ciri popped into my head first because, I mean, it is for at least part of it, and then it kind of deviates for that. Otherwise, I don't know that I've read many of that one either. There is also Dreadful by Catalin Rozakis, as we have our evil dark wizard and a princess. And I can't really tell you how that relates because it gets into the story plot. But this was so much fun, and it turns it on its head of what it means to be the bad guy in a fairy tale, especially if you can't even remember that you are the bad guy and you woke up with no eyebrows. Books featuring older character romances. This is where Amina Al-Sarafi came back around, even though I did try to only put them... Nope, Sunshine! But Amina is an older character. She is a mom, and she is this pirate captain who is feared throughout the seas. And she's back out on the seas to save someone else's daughter because her own daughter might be at risk, and also, you know, to be able to afford the place for her mom and her daughter. And the romance aspect doesn't happen a whole lot in the present, but you hear about what happened, and he might show back up in the book. He might be a character to play in the book as well. Then I thought about this book, which is The Keeper 6 by Kate Elliott. Yes, it is very tiny. In this one, our main character, Esther, is going on a quest to save her adult son. Like, she's woken from the middle of the night with his plea for help. And she has to gather the band back together that has been banned from realm hopping because in this point in time, world, version of Earth, there are portals to other realms. What is it called? The Beyond. And that's a place beyond space and time, and it connects our realm to other places, and you can just travel into the Beyond. And so she's going to get her son back by whatever means necessary. Found family is one that I think has been popping up in a lot of things recently, but when making this list, my brain said no. And I feel like I've even used that to describe certain books lately. Could I tell them to you now? No. But one you've already probably heard it mentioned so many times would be Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Beautiful found family. I don't think I need to describe it to you much about the orc? Is she an orc? Who retires from battle to run a coffee shop in a place that has never had a coffee shop. And it is adorable. It is so sweet, and it makes you want cinnamon rolls so bad. That's not the book I needed. The other one, though, would be the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sango Mandana. And pretty much found family is the core of this book, because witches have to live separately. Like, they can't have a community because magic goes kind of haywire if there's too many of them in one place. And our main character is very lonely because of this. At the start of the book, she's been making TikToks where she just makes it look like it's video editing but someone who is familiar with magic actually does find out about it and contacts her to come train these 3 little girls, 3 little witches, how to control their powers. And hijinks ensue, and romance, and her getting close and actually having family bonds, and wild, wild magic. It was adorable. It was so sweet. With animal companions, she specified non-speaking abilities, which is actually kind of difficult as most fantasy things gain the ability to speak if they're their companion. But I did think of one like immediately, and another one that smacked me in the face later as of course it fits. And the third one as I was pulling the books down. The first one up is going to be Ralph from Cackle by Rachel Harrison. Ralph is kind of an above average size fuzzy spider. But he's so sweet and so adorable, and like he puts on party hats and everything, and he is supportive. It is just, yes, this was so cute and sweet in a kind of grim book. But Ralph, the one that smacked me in the face as How Could You Forget Me would be Luggage from The Color of Magic and the Light Fantastic by Terry Pratchett. Because the luggage is sentient. It follows them around. It can totally hear them, and it has feelings even. It shows emotions at some points of sadness. And it bites people. We'll just go with it bites people. So yes, luggage totally counts as an animal companion in this sense. Finally, there are the familiars in the Dark Gods series by Tara Sim. This one we are introduced to at least 2 of them. One of them is a literal little darkness as they come from the world of night, and the other one is the exact opposite in a ball of light. I loved what she was doing here with the world, as this city is supposed to be the nexus of where all the realms used to could travel between each other, but something happened and the gates closed off, and citizens that were from those realms got stuck here, and some of them do face prejudices. But not just that, the gods, they can no longer speak to their gods. The founding families still have magic. Some of the others have magic too, don't they? I no longer remember that aspect. The noble families though have the most power. And you're following a person from each of the noble families. I keep saying noble, but that feels wrong too. For the bonus of mushrooms, the Tainted Cup, it definitely deals with fungi of a sort, and also just plants in general that are used in different ways to make different sorts of things, because the main character is killed by a tree growing out of him, and that was a weaponized fungal sort of invention. The walls aren't walls necessarily in most places. They are a type of thin fungal paper. It's an interesting setup for sure. But plants play a very big important part in this one. I agree. And you should definitely read it, though it is based around a detective mystery story. So there is a bit of the investigation there, but it's not like a modern cop story. It's the Sherlock Holmesian thing, and you're following him as he's trying to unravel it. Him being the Watson, Denios Cole, and Anna Dolbara, who is the main character, she makes it all worth it. She's awesome. I definitely think using the timer this time around helped me be more brief, and hopefully the video overall did not stretch on too long because I babbled too much about some of these books. Would you also recommend these books with the tropes I chose? Do you think they fit good, or do you have others that you believe fit better? I would like to know your recommendations in the comments down below. And I will be passing the torch along to Ash from Books to Ashes. I can't wait to see her spin on the tropes, which one she picks to go with some of these, and which tropes and buzzwords she might be adding on to them as well. I hope you guys will check out both of their channels. They'll be linked down below, and come back for more fun videos and tell me what books you would pick for some of these. I hope you're having an excellent day, finding something great to read, and I'll see you in the next one.